Welcome back to the Officer Leadership Series. In Episode 1, we discuss what makes crew members respect an officer. Today, we will discuss the opposite. What causes the officers to lose crew respect? Many officers assume respect disappears because of one single mistake. In reality, crew members are often willing to forgive mistakes. What they struggle to forgive are repeated behaviors that damage the trust, credibility, and the leadership. Respect is like a ship's reputation. It takes years to build, but it can be damaged very quickly. Every interaction with your crew either strengthens or weakens your leadership. The danger is that many officers don't realize they are losing respect until it's already gone. For example, a newly promoted chief officer spent months building a positive relationship with a crew. He was very approachable, professional, and well-liked on board. One day, a crew operation was delayed. Without fully investigating the situations, he immediately blamed an able seaman for the delay. Later, it became clear that the AV was not responsible. The crew noticed what happened. Although it seems like a single incident, the trust he had spent months building was suddenly weakened. This experience reminds us that respect is fragile. It takes time to earn, but it can be damaged very quickly when fairness and judgment are compromised. Nothing destroys respect faster than hypocrisy. If an officer demands discipline but arrives late, crew members notice. If an officer talks about safety but ignores procedure, crew members notice as well. The crew listens to what you say, but they believe in what you do. Leadership begins with personal example. Earlier in my career, I sailed with very experienced chief officer who constantly remind the crew that smoking on deck was strictly prohibited. He regularly emphasized the importance of following safety procedures and setting as a good example. However, one day, a crew saw him smoking on deck himself. No one openly challenged him, but the message was clear. The crew began questioning the standards being enforced. At that moment, his words lost credibility because his actions contradict them. Leadership is not measured by what we say. It is measured by what we constantly do. Some officers mistakenly believe leadership means proving they are above others. True leaders never need to remind people of their rank. Crew members respect confidence. They dislike arrogance. The moment an officer stops listening and starts believing they are always right, respect begins to disappear. For example, while preparing for a life prop or an exchange during annual servicing, during the time I was still a third officer. During the operation, a bosun with more than 20 years of experience suggested a safer method for moving the life prop from its securing position to the main deck. Before the bosun could fully explain his idea, the chief officer interrupted and said, "Just do what I tell you." The bosun simply shook his head and remained silent. The operation continued, but something important lost during that day. Valuable experience and practical knowledge were ignored because leadership chose authority over listening. Respect grows when leaders value the experience of others regardless of rank. Imagine an officer who allows something today but punishes it tomorrow. Crew members become confused. Eventually, they stop trusting the officer's judgment. Good leadership is predictable. People need to know where they stand. Consistency builds trust. Inconsistency destroys it. While serving as a chief officer, I worked with a master who allowed the crew members to enter the crew mess room wearing their coveralls during a short coffee breaks. The crew understood this as an accepted practice. However, only a few days later, the same master became extremely upset when they saw crew members entering the mess room wearing their coveralls. The crew was confused. The rule had not changed, but the reaction had. When standards vary depending on mood or circumstances, people become uncertain about expectations. Consistency creates confidence. Inconsistency creates confusion. No one enjoys being embarrassed in front of others. Crew members may forget the mistake they made, but they rarely forget how they were treated afterward. Professional correction is necessary. Humiliation is not. A respected officer maintains discipline without damaging dignity. For example, when I was serving as a second officer, I witnessed an incident during lunchtime that left a lasting impression on me. A chief officer became angry with a deck cadet and began shouting at him in front of everyone in the mess room. Harsh language was used and the cadet was publicly embarrassed while the crew sat silently eating their meals. After that incident, I noticed a change in the cadet's behavior. He became quieter, less willing to ask questions, and hesitant to participate in the discussions. The lesson was clear. Discipline may be necessary, but humiliation is never an effective leadership tool. Great leaders correct privately and preserve the dignity of their people. One of the fastest ways to lose credibility is refusing responsibility. When things go well, weak leaders take credit. When things go wrong, they look for someone to blame. Strong leaders do the opposite. They protect their team and take ownership of the outcomes. Accountability inspires respect. Excuses destroys it. For example, in one of my vessels when I was a second officer, a problem was discovered involving a reaper temperature monitoring. A crew member assigned to record the temperatures had not been checking several reaper containers located inside the cargo hold because he was unaware that those units were there. During the investigations, it became evident that clear instructions had never been provided to him by the chief officer. However, instead of accepting responsibility for the communication failure, the chief officer involved blamed the crew member entirely. The situations escalated further when physical contact was made. The rest of the crew understood what had really happened. From that moment, confidence in the chief officer's leadership began to decline. True leaders accept responsibility when communications breaks down. Ship operates because people operate them. Crew members want leaders who care about their welfare. They understand operational pressures, and they also appreciate officers who recognize human needs. When crew members feel invisible, loyalty declines. When they feel valued, commitment increases. For example, during a demanding port stay, an able seaman had already participated in arrival operations, cargo operations, store handling, and departure preparations. The following day, he was visibly exhausted. Rather than checking on his condition or considering his workload, he was assigned additional overtime duties. The message received by the crew member was not about teamwork or support. The message was that tasks matter more than people. Leadership is not only about getting the job done. It is also about recognizing the human limits of the people performing the work. Every leader experiences pressure, but leadership is often measured by how we respond to it. During difficult moments, the crew watches closely. The leader who loses emotional control creates uncertainty. A leader who remains calm creates confidence. Emotional discipline is leadership discipline. For example, when I was a deck cadet, I was responsible for maintaining the gangway area, and during the PEC inspections, several deficiencies were identified in the gangway visitor log. Instead of remaining calm and addressing the issues professionally, the chief officer began shouting at me in front of the PEC inspectors and openly blaming me for the situations. I felt so embarrassed and discouraged that moment. What I remember most? however, was the reaction of the inspectors themselves. They recognized that the situations could have been handled differently and expressed that such treatment was unnecessary. That experience taught me an important lesson. In stressful situations, emotional control is often more important than technical competence. Favoritism is one of the quickest ways to destroy trust on board. Crew members may tolerate strict leadership, but they rarely tolerate unfair leadership. People respect leaders who apply standards equally. Fairness strengthens unity. Favoritism creates division. For example, while serving as chief officer, I observed a master who appeared to have a favorite crew member on board. Whenever he entered the mess room, he would immediately greet and engage with that particular person, while rarely acknowledging others. The behavior may not have been intentional, but the crew noticed. Over time, some crew members have begun feeling overlooked and less valued. Leadership requires fairness, not only in decisions and assignments, but also in everyday interactions. People notice when attention and recognition are distributed unevenly. Sometimes the signs are subtle. Crew members stop volunteering ideas. Communication becomes minimal. People follow instructions but no longer engage. This is often a warning sign that respect and trust are declining. Good leaders recognize these signals early and make a judgment. One of the easiest things to observe on board is a change in crew behavior. For example, at the beginning of the contract, crew members may actively contribute ideas during meetings, ask questions, and participate in discussions. As time passes by, those same individuals may become quiet, suggestions disappear, questions receive short answers, initiative declines. Crew members begin doing only what is required and nothing more. These subtle changes are often warning signs that trust and respect are fading. Leaders may pay attention to those signals, can address problems before they become serious. Kaya always be observant at all times. I once worked with a chief officer who could sometimes appear arrogant and struggle to control his emotions. Many crew members found him difficult to work with. However, during one ballasting operations, he made a significant mistake. What happened next surprised everyone. He immediately acknowledged the error, informed me, informed the chief engineer, and openly discussed it with the deck crew. He did not make excuses. He did not blame anyone else. He accepted responsibility. Because of that honesty and accountability, the crew continued to respect him. This experience reinforced a powerful leadership lesson. People rarely lose respect because of a single mistake. They lose respect when leaders repeatedly avoid responsibility, blame others, and behave in ways that contradict the values they expect from their teams. Respect is one of the most valuable assets an officer can possess. It cannot be demanded, it cannot be ordered, it must be earned through daily actions. Avoid hypocrisy, stay humble, be fair, accept responsibility, care for your people, because at sea, leadership is not measured by the stripes on your shoulder. It is measured by the trust you inspire in the people who sail with you. Thank you for watching.